Now I'd like to turn to Chris Blackmar for some of his sandbox modeling. Chris, welcome.
Basically, what I'm going to do here is backtrack a little bit because I think in the process of going along here, we managed to skip one of the cabins. And so again, the idea of the sandboxes that I'm trying to do is just a broad set of modeling skills to allow you to gain the confidence in everything else. So again, this one is the second sandbox is already posted on the Nutrax website, but this is the Colin's cabin. And this one had a goal of some base weathering, which was a little bit different from what you normally would attempt to achieve. I then also wanted to use a mortarline product to try to add texture to wood to simulate the concrete base and do an evaluation of that. And then if I could develop some methodology in creating and carving plaster or hydrocal so as to create a crumbling type of chimney effect, that I was kind of after that. And then I also wanted to do a little bit of a study of laser cut window products instead of using the old styrene castings. This one is a board by board over the mat template, and the roof is shingled, and we are scratch building the door. So the discussion and coloring here, I'm just going to say that there's a lot of oddball colors that you see on things in the Colorado area. And so I was going to try to achieve some of the coloring effects that you normally don't see. In this picture, you can kind of see how the wood siding is orange and yellow, and then it goes to a black. And a lot of that black sheen, although it doesn't show up in this, is actually kind of a glossy type sheen too, almost like a gasoline or an oil type thing has come down. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention in this photo is the knot holes. The knot holes are actually yellow with a black center. And so how do you create that? Because normally we always go after the black type of knot holes. Well, I'm going through, and so I wanted to really just kind of focus on the yellow, orange colorings. And these are the soft pastels that I used to create the coloring on the structure. This is kind of what it looked like. Again, in the instructions, I go through and I cover doing the end stains on the ends. And then you'll also notice along the base of the boards, there is some wicking to give some additional weathering to it. The yellow knot holes, I kind of just decided not to try to really focus in on this build, but just really focus more on that broad coloring. There's lots of different examples of this. I was up in the mountains. I go up a couple of times a year and take a look around. And this is just a brief overview of some of those. Notice the weathering on the structure here and how it goes from virtually a white all the way to the black. And it includes some of that orange. You can see that orange in the windows, on the siding, just all over the place. Also notice some of the crumbling brick in this structure and the foundation there a little bit. Stepping back a little bit here, I brought this one up because notice the piece of plywood kind of sticking up in front here. It's also got that orange. So it's not just the siding. Other pieces of wood pick up this orange texture coloring in the Colorado area. And so if you're doing that, that might be something you want to pay attention to. This one, I also wanted to bring attention to how some of the boards go from the very weathered gray all the way down to the um, orange and black. Also note the chimney on a shelf, which is not something you would normally see. Stepping back a little bit further, in a little bit different example here, I wanted to point out in this picture the black structure here kind of in the right front. Notice just under the eave, you've almost got a green coloring there, almost a moss. And then down below that, notice how the texturing and coloring is on the clapboard siding. And this reflects very much to the last time I presented the Sandbox series and the siding of using the ink markers to bring this type of thing in. That one I'm hoping to get into the New Track webmasters to get posted here this next week. It's not New Tracks, it's my not getting the information to them as I promised I would do. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring to your attention here was the extension on the ladder over here by the window on the left side. And one of the slides later brings out the point of notice the tilted pole in the background. I'll just kind of bring that up right now because we're running short on time tonight. And finally, notice the pile of dirt here and the dirt colors. What I'm trying to do here is show you how to use your own photos when you are taking pictures of things. And you are working on your own in this. I was in, all of this is in the same town up there. And this is, I was in the Swedish area of the old town, and thus some of the structures have that flavor. But again, notice here you've got that orange all over the place. You've got it on the shingles on underneath the eaves on the left, or excuse me, on the right, and then you've got that orange on the plywood. You've got it in the windows. You've got it on the doors, and it slides all the way back. The other thing here to notice is some of the piping and how some of it is only rusted around the bands. The first one on the right is just almost a straight L, and you've got rusting primarily just around the bands. The zigzag one in the middle, you have a little bit more rusting through it, and then the straight line down the back, that one, well, you can figure out if it's rusted or not. And then if you go all the way to the very back there, you can see some others that are rusted to the point of being black. Again, getting back to that orange color and the yellow knot holes, it's throughout the Colorado area. So it's not just on mines and things. You'll find it in the cities and all the way through. I then was going to go through a little bit more in detail about your own photography and using your pictures and how to use them and things. And when you're taking a shot, things to kind of think about. I think what I'll do here, since I haven't turned this in, I'll go on ahead and add this PowerPoint presentation to that. And you guys can, if anybody's ever into it, they can kind of read it and study it. Here I referenced that leaning telephone pole. When I get done taking a picture, I'll go home and then I'll really sit down and evaluate them. And looking at that one picture that we saw back then, here are 19 other items that I picked up out of that picture as an example. I then go through the techniques of coloring the materials and putting together the actual cabin. I did use silver wood using a rolling technique with the hairs near the ferrule of the brush. We've covered that in the past. And then I created a platform base, just basically a square of strip wood, and I covered it with some polyscale paint, but I also used the Builders and Scale light mortar mix, and then a little bit of pastel pencils to add some additional texturing and coloring to that. I then have the evaluation that I always put in the Sandbox builds, and we'll just kind of go through this real quick. The 29 center here is that the wood is that yellow prototype. I think I about nailed it with the coloring sequence and the values of hues that I used earlier. The big thing is do not use strip wood framing with for your doors and window frames if you have put knot holes in it. That really failed. And this is just kind of a quick collage of pictures. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jim.